The first decision. Every morning, you wake up and make a choice. You might not realize it's happening, but it is. In those first few moments of consciousness, before your feet hit the floor, before you check your phone, before the world starts demanding things from you, you make a decision that will shape your entire day. The question is, are you choosing creation, or are you defaulting to destruction? Let me explain what I mean. We talk a lot about motivation, about drive, about becoming the best version of ourselves. But here's something most people won't tell you. Motivation is a spark. It's the lightning that gets you moving. But what actually determines whether you build something meaningful or just burn through another day in frustration is that first decision. Because here's the truth that nobody wants to admit. Destruction is easier. Destruction is the default. You don't have to try to be destructive. You just have to not try at all. Think about it. When you wake up, what's easier? Scrolling through social media for an hour, or working on that project you keep saying matters to you? Hitting snooze 5 times, or getting up and taking action? Complaining about what's wrong with your life, or actually doing something to change it? Destruction requires no effort. Things naturally fall apart. Relationships decay if you don't maintain them. Your body deteriorates if you don't care for it. Your dreams fade if you don't chase them. Entropy is real. And every morning, if you don't actively choose otherwise, you slide right back into it. But here's where it gets interesting. You're not like everything else in the universe. You're not just drifting along subject to entropy and decay. You have something that makes you fundamentally different from anything else on this planet. You can create. Not just physically build things, though you can do that too. You can create meaning. You can create change. You can create who you become. You're a creator by nature. It's literally built into you. But here's the catch. Unlike destruction, which happens automatically, creation requires a choice. An active, intentional choice. And that choice? It happens first thing in the morning. Picture your morning. Your alarm goes off, or you just wake up naturally. For most people, what happens next is automatic. Grab the phone, check messages, scroll social media, see what you missed. React to other people's lives, other people's problems, other people's content. And in doing that, you've already made your choice. You've chosen to be reactive instead of creative. You've chosen to consume instead of produce. You've chosen to let the world tell you what matters instead of deciding for yourself. Now, I'm not saying checking your phone makes you a bad person. I'm saying it's a signal. It's a sign of which mode you're operating in, creation or destruction. Because when you start your day reacting, you stay reactive. When you start your day consuming, you stay consumptive. When you start your day letting other people set your agenda, you spend the entire day living someone else's life instead of your own. So what does it look like to choose creation instead? It starts with understanding what you are. You're not just another piece of the machine. You're not just a cog in someone else's system. You're a creator, a small-scale creator, sure, but a creator nonetheless. Think about it like this. If there's a grand creator who made everything, and you're made in that image, then you inherited that same creative capacity. You're like a lowercase God. Not all-powerful, not perfect, but possessing that same fundamental ability to bring things into existence that weren't there before. That's not just philosophical talk. That's real. You create every single day. The question is, what are you creating? Are you creating progress, or are you creating excuses? Are you creating value, or are you creating complaints? Are you creating your future, or are you creating reasons why your future can't happen? Here's what I've learned. Destruction is what happens when you don't choose. It's the default setting. You don't wake up and decide, today I'm going to destroy my potential. You just don't choose to create. And destruction fills that void automatically. Let me give you an example. Let's say you want to start creating content. Maybe videos, maybe writing, maybe music, whatever. You have this idea, this creative spark, and every morning you wake up with that possibility sitting there. What happens if you don't actively choose to work on it? It doesn't just stay neutral, it starts dying. The idea gets weaker, the excitement fades, self-doubt creeps in. Weeks pass, months pass, and eventually you've destroyed that creative possibility without ever making an active choice to destroy it. You just didn't choose to create it. That's what I mean by destruction being the default. It's what happens in the absence of creation. But here's the powerful part. That first morning decision can change everything. When you wake up and you make that conscious choice, today I'm going to create something, even if it's small, even if it's imperfect, you shift modes. You move from passive to active, from consumer to creator, from victim to architect. So how do you actually do this? How do you make that first decision count? It's simpler than you think, but it requires discipline, not motivation. Discipline. Because motivation is what you feel. Discipline is what you do regardless of what you feel. Here's the framework. Before you do anything else in the morning, before you check your phone, before you open social media, before you let the world crash into your consciousness, you do one creative act. Just one. It doesn't have to be huge. It doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be intentional. Maybe you write for 10 minutes. Maybe you work on that project for 15 minutes. Maybe you record a voice memo with an idea you have. Maybe you sketch something. Maybe you plan your day instead of letting your day happen to you. The specific act doesn't matter as much as the decision behind it. You're declaring with that first action. Today I am a creator, not a consumer. Today I am active, not reactive. Today I am building, not defaulting. Why does this work? Why does that first decision matter so much? Because momentum is real. The first action sets the trajectory. When you start your day in creation mode, you stay in creation mode. Your brain shifts into that gear. You start seeing opportunities instead of obstacles. You start taking action instead of waiting for permission. But it works the other way too. When you start in destruction mode, reactive, passive, consuming, you stay in destruction mode. You spend the whole day feeling like life is happening to you instead of being shaped by you. Think of it like this. Every morning, you're standing at a fork in the road. One path leads to creation. The other leads to destruction. And most people don't even realize they're choosing, so they end up on the destruction path by default. But once you see the fork, once you realize that first decision is happening, whether you're conscious of it or not, you can choose differently. And here's where it gets really powerful. This isn't just about one day. It's about what happens when you make that first decision correctly day after day after day. One morning of choosing creation doesn't transform your life. But 30 mornings does. 300 mornings does. 1,000 mornings does. Because every time you choose creation first thing in the morning, you're reinforcing a pattern. You're training yourself. You're becoming, literally becoming, a different kind of person. You're becoming someone who creates, instead of someone who defaults. And that compounds. The creative output compounds. You actually produce things. But more importantly, your identity compounds. You stop seeing yourself as someone who wants to create and start seeing yourself as someone who does create. You become a creator in your own eyes. And once that shift happens internally, everything external changes. Now let me address what you're probably thinking right now. This sounds good, but I'm not a morning person, or I'm too tired in the morning, or I have too much going on. I get it. But here's what you need to understand. Those thoughts, those excuses, those rationalizations, that's the destruction talking. That's the default mode trying to keep you comfortable. Because destruction is comfortable. It's easy. It requires nothing from you. Creation is uncomfortable. It requires energy, effort, intention, and your brain is wired to conserve energy, to stay comfortable, to avoid unnecessary effort. So when you wake up and that voice in your head says, just 5 more minutes, or you can start tomorrow, or you're not ready yet, that's not truth. That's destruction disguised as reason. The truth is simpler. You either choose to create, or you default to destroy. There's no neutral. There's no, I'll think about it. Every moment you're not creating, you're destroying by default. So here's what I want you to do. Not tomorrow. Not when you feel ready. Not when conditions are perfect. Tomorrow morning. Set your alarm. And before you do anything else, before the phone, before the scroll, before you let the world in, you do one creative act. 10 minutes, 15 minutes, whatever you can manage. It doesn't have to be perfect. In fact, it probably won't be. That's not the point. The point is the choice. The point is declaring with that first action, today I am a creator. And right now, before you click away, I want you to make your first choice. Type this in the comments. I choose creation. That's it. 3 words. I choose creation. This isn't just for engagement. This is your first act of intention. By typing those words, you're making a public declaration. You're putting it out there. You're activating that creator identity right now, not tomorrow. So go ahead. Pause this video if you need to. Type it out. I choose creation. I'll be reading every single comment. And when I see yours, I'll know you're ready. I'll know you've made that first decision. Do that for 7 days. Just 7 days. See what changes. Not just in what you produce, but in how you feel, in how you see yourself, in what becomes possible. Because here's what I've learned. Motivation gets you started. But that first decision every morning, that's what keeps you going. That's what transforms temporary excitement into permanent change. You're a creator. You were built to create. Not just to consume. Not just to react. Not just to exist. To create. But you have to choose it every single morning, that first decision. Tomorrow morning, when you wake up, you'll be standing at that fork in the road. Creation or destruction, active or passive, builder or consumer. The choice is yours. It always has been. The only question is, will you make it consciously, or will you let the default decide for you? You already chose once today. You typed those words in the comments. Now choose again tomorrow morning. And the next day, and the next. Thanks for listening. I'll see you in the next one.